Both Genshin and Honkai Impact are part of the Honkaiverse, or the Hoyo-verse, or the hot anime waifus and husbandos gacha hell please have mercy on my soul I need to eat today verse. Call it however you like. This was confirmed by the developers themselves in multiple interviews.
It is because our company has a goal in mind, and which is to create the Honkai universe.
The Honkaiverse is a project aimed to establish the foundation of a shared multiverse between all of Hoyoverse's games. Now, before you get mad at me for having the nerves to say such a blasphemous thing, please keep in mind, each game is separate with its own audience and does not require you to play the other game in order to understand it. This shared multiverse enables them only to make references and Easter eggs easier and maybe do some small connections. Because of this, fans of both games have tried to find something that could link them together. Thus, the Project Ark theory was born. In this video, I will tell you everything we know about Project Ark and propose a theory that could finally link Genshin and Honkai Impact together. Now, let us take off. For those of you who are not Honkai players, let me quickly establish some terms to let you understand what I'm going to talk about. In the world of Honkai Impact 3rd, humanity already formed a high-tech civilization more than 50,000 years ago that was destroyed by the Honkai. I am going to refer to that civilization as the previous era. Before being destroyed, the people from the previous era started a series of projects meant to ensure that humanity will survive after its imminent destruction. One of those projects is Project Ark. The Ark bears a copy of the human genome library and it was launched into the space to search for other inhabitable planets. Its purpose was to make sure that humanity will prosper again on another planet if the previous era was destroyed. For the longest time, the biggest mystery regarding Project Ark was the identity of the person who left with it. With the release of the Elysian realm and the Flame Chasers, we now know that the person who went with the Ark is Griseo. She is one of the Flame Chasers, a group of augmented super soldiers from the previous era called Mantises. Initially, the project was supposed to be carried out by Kasma, another flame chaser, but Griseo asked to go in his place. While the Elysian realm lore doesn't give a definitive answer as to who boarded the Ark between the two, it was confirmed later by Griseo's dorm description that she was indeed the one. Throughout the Honkai Impact 3rd media, we see the Ark represented in a couple of different ways. The most brought up representation is from the second key manga, where we see the Ark as two star-shaped objects drifting through space. This image resembles a lot the portrayal of the travelers in the beginning of Genshin Impact and led many people to theorize that the travelers are linked to the project. The second representation is from the Alien Space manga. In one of the chapters, we can take a glance at the blueprints used to build the Ark. Here, it looks like the Ark is composed by two different spaceships merged together. This had many believe that what we saw in second key is nothing more than a very zoomed out perspective of the ship and nothing more. Finally, the last representation is in the form of a gift from Kasma during his last remembrance vessel in Elysian realm. This shows a much smaller Ark in the form of a blue rocket, meant to be more of a representation from Kasma's perspective rather than an accurate depiction. What's interesting though is the fact that Vilvi, the creator of the Ark, tells us that there is room for only one person on the spaceship. This is conflicting because if we take the blueprints from Alien Space as the true design of the Ark, we can clearly see that there should be room for more than one person. Meanwhile, if you were to assume that the Ark looked more like the gift from Kasma, it would align more with Vilvi's description. So, which one is true? Did they retcon that part from Alien Space? And the answer to that is maybe? You'll have to wait and hope for more to be revealed. It was confirmed in the second key that the Ark left the solar system more than 2,500 years ago. The project was declared a failure because the pioneers lost contact and the ability to track or communicate with it. They were expecting to hear from the Ark around 1500 years ago, but they never did. This implies that something might have happened to the Ark. One of the main counter-arguments that the Ark is connected to Teyvat is the fact that it's supposed to be used for intra-dimensional travel, not interdimensional, meaning that the Ark was never supposed to leave the current universe and, therefore, had no means to reach Teyvat. Or did it? Since we know that something happened with the Ark, it's not impossible to think that it somehow fell into the Sea of Quanta and ended up reaching other bubble universes or even other branches on the imaginary tree. I'm not going to waste time in explaining here what the Sea of Quanta is or how the Honkai multiverse works. If you are interested in finding out more, I have a video in the description that goes into more detail. For now, just think of it as a space between universes that houses many bubble universes and world fragments. Griseo is an introverted child who loves to paint. Both of her parents died due to Honkai-related incidents, and even Griseo herself was heavily injured one time. The only way for her to survive was to undergo a metamorph surgery and become a mantis. After the surgery, her paintbrush was infused with a mysterious power. Griseo is very easily influenced by the people around her, to the point where she absorbs their personalities and starts talking and acting like them. She refers to the traits she borrows from others as colors. She uses these colors to paint, and her paintings have the ability to influence the people around them based on the colors of the person she used when painting. One time, Griseo did a painting based on Kaupas, and it is said that it almost brought an entire city to the brink of destruction. In the Elysian realm, due to it being a data space based on the shared consciousness of the Flame Chasers, Griseo gained the ability to shape reality and bring her paintings to life. Even if she only displayed those abilities in the realm, it's important to note that Griseo was only a child when she left with the Ark. Her powers were incredibly busted even by Mantis standards, having seemingly unlimited potential for creation. So, who's to say that she couldn't develop these abilities, or even more, if given the necessary time? Like, I don't know, 50,000 years in a spaceship traveling the universe? VLV tells Cosma that the Ark was designed with his Vishnu genes in mind, which allow him to continuously evolve as long as he consumes Honkai beasts. She also said that with time he could become a being capable of creating worlds. Cosma ended up staying on Earth, of course, but who's to say that Griseo couldn't achieve the same through different means? Given her tremendous potential, I wouldn't be surprised if 50,000 years were enough to allow her to become a godlike being that could shape an entire world and create life with her paintings. Inspired by Griseo, I also decided to make a painting. It's called Please subscribe to the channel and leave a thumbs up if you like the video and want to see more Honkai Impact 3rd and Honkai Star Rail content. The Primordial One is the progenitor god who allegedly came to Teyvat from another world. It battled and defeated the 7 sovereign dragon lords who were ruling over the old world. After its victory, it went on to create the heavens and earth and 4 shining shades of itself. Ultimately, the Primordial One is held responsible for the creation of humanity in Genshin. Through reading Before Sun and Moon, we can clearly see some thematic similarities between the entity known as the Primordial One and Griseo. In the chapter on Phanes, or the Primordial One, it stated that it was birthed from an egg. It's important to note that Before Sun and Moon is meant to be a historical scripture, meaning that the events relayed in it are interpretations using figures of speech and metaphors to convey information in a stylized manner. So, if you take that in mind, the egg could very likely be a spaceship, an ark of some sort. Even if the two have absolutely no connection whatsoever, it's clear that Hoyoverse used the story of Noah's Ark, or Teyvat Noah in Hebrew, as a core theme for both characters. Some of the chapters in Before Sun and Moon, such as the year of the Ark's opening and when doves held branches, are direct references to the legend of the Great Flood. Now, please think back at Project Ark. Humanity is about to face extinction. Just like Noah, Griseo is chosen to board the Ark and carry the entire human genome library through space to find a habitable planet and make sure that humanity will continue existing. A few thousand years have passed, and due to the nature of her powers and potential, she became a being with unlimited power for creation. The Primordial One arrived in the old world in some sort of spaceship from another world. After arriving, it defeated the 7 sovereign dragon lords to make sure that the planet can be safely inhabited. It created 4 shades, creation being a power heavily associated with Griseo, and created humans, which very coincidentally is similar to the task Griseo was assigned when boarding the Ark. Hoyoverse always uses similar themes for both games without drawing any direct connection, but in Griseo and the Primordial One's cases, there are just too many coincidences. It's a bit sus. In On Phanes, or the Primordial One, it is mentioned that it had wings and a crown, and it being androgynous in nature. While this description does not reveal much, it's safe to assume that the appearance of the Primordial One doesn't seem to be human. So, how can it be Griseo? We know how she looks, so even if she grew older while boarding the Ark, she wouldn't suddenly grow wings, would she? Well, remember that Griseo is a mantis, and all mantises have access to what is called an Honkai active reaction. Due to them being a result of fusing human and Honkai beast genes, they can turn into a form similar to a Honkai beast. Though the majority of them lose their sanity when they do that, we know that some, like Mobius, can control their active Honkai reaction. So, it wouldn't be impossible to assume that the appearance described in Before Sun and Moon is Griseo's Honkai active reaction form. After all, unlike the majority of the Flame Chasers, we know nothing about the Honkai beast Griseo fused with. Genshin's lore is based on Gnosticism. Because of that, many myths are translated to the game. Such is the myth of the Demiurge, whom the Primordial One is associated with. In Gnosticism, the Demiurge is a false creator depicted as an artisan that fabricated the physical universe. It thinks of itself as a supreme being without realizing that it's just another creation and there is a being above it, the monad, the actual supreme being. In many philosophies, all the creations made by the Demiurge are considered fake because they are just a consequence of an even higher power. In the Reconciled Stars event, Scaramouche says that the sky is fake, hinting at some hidden truths behind the creation of Teyvat. Maybe the sky in Teyvat is fake because it's not made by a true supreme being and it's just a painting made by the Demiurge, in this case the Primordial One, aka Griseo. Let's take a look at the journey of painting stars. In this event, we play as Griseo, who is traveling through a world painted into existence by an entity known as the Depictor. As she and her painted companions travel through the world, she restores it by repainting the parts that are fading. The event heavily implies at the end that the Depictor is the real Griseo who went with the Ark. But you may say, Homo, how can an event in Honkai Impact predict things that will happen in Genshin Impact? That makes no sense. Yeah, well, remember the Honkai X Genshin collab that spoiled a whole part of the Inazuma Archon quest one patch before it got released?
You're saying that the one we met at the ceremony was just a puppet? And the real Raiden Shoujo is the one that the Traveler met later?
I just want to say that it's not something I wouldn't put past Hoyoverse to do. They like to tease one game in another, and it's something that we have observed multiple times at this point. Hey, future Homo here. While editing, I noticed that during the event, Griseo has 4 painted companions that she created herself. Mr. Knight, the Courtier, the Countess, and the Charioteer. This is very similar and could be a direct parallel to the 4 shades created by the Primordial One. That's it for now, back to past Homo. If you go through Griseo's dialogues in Elysian realm, you can see her mentioning the sky a lot. For her, the image of the sky represents freedom, a place where all her warm memories exist and where she says that she'll want to live someday. Of course, this could be foreshadowing that she'll take to the sky with the Ark, but what if Griseo painted Celestia as a place in the sky to live in, just like she wanted as a child? So, let's do a short recap. The Primordial One is Griseo, who embarked the Ark with the Human Genome Library at the end of the previous era. While drifting through space for thousands of years, Griseo, who had unlimited potential for creation, became a being capable of altering reality and create life using her paintings. She ended up in the Sea of Quanta, and there she found Teyvat, a bubble universe in the sea. She used her powers to fight off the 7 sovereign dragon lords and to paint 4 shades. After that, she painted the sky and earth anew to make sure that the planet is habitable, and then used the Human Genome Library from Project Ark to restore humanity. Finally, she painted Celestia in the sky, where she wanted to live for the rest of her days. But, as you may have noticed, the story of Genshin Impact is a bit more complicated than that. Something might have happened to Griseo, and whoever rules over Celestia right now seems to be a totally different person. Who knows? At the end of the day, this is just a theory. It doesn't have to be true. All it needs to be is just a fun idea to discuss between the fans of both games that love to find connections and similar ideas.